What are the best psychological mind tricks you know? My boss at a retail store taught me this one on how to deal with customers when they won't stop talking to you because they have nothing else to do with their day. While they're talking with you, start walking towards the door while responding to them. They will naturally follow. You open the door for them while still talking to them, and they'll walk through. You follow. Now you're both outside the store and you say, "Okay, well, have a great day," and walk back inside. All right, just getting in a little early and saying, "I'm recording a little earlier than I usually do, so my voice is probably all a bit weird. Sorry. It's still me though, guys, it is." And also further proof I'm not an AI. Why do people keep saying that? Next story. When walking in crowded areas and an oncoming wall of humans are consuming the entire sidewalk, just stop. Completely stop. They'll move around you, clearing the path. It feels like Moses parting the sea. Next story. I love subtly making my coworkers like each other with very, very small manipulations and nobody questions. Like telling them something they did good or what was great about them and adding, "X thinks that too." Doing the same thing with Y, telling them X said so. I know it sounds terrible, but I love it when they start to really act nicer to each other and become friendly over time. You have to be very patient and don't rush it. Keep it very casual and simple, just to leave a positive impression they get of each other. At one point, it stops being a lie because they really say nice things about each other. Next story. When doing one-on-ones with people, especially when you want to get to the bottom of something, say nothing. Ask an initial question, let them talk. Say nothing in reply or something small that they can't change the tangent of the conversation. Most people become uncomfortable and will fill the silence by talking more. You gain a lot more from this than you would by asking probing questions in a lot of instances. Doesn't work on extreme introverts though. They don't mind the silence. Next story. Get someone to say something yes to something small and it significantly increases the odds they'll say yes to something bigger. Get someone to fulfill small favors for you and you'll increase chances significantly that they'll think favorably about you. Next story. Stop talking. If you're negotiating with someone, even over something small and it's not going the way you want, just to look at them and listen. They'll get to a point where they've laid out their position and know that you're unhappy with it. Let them be uncomfortable with the silence and keep talking themselves into a worse position. Works very well with sales guys delivering less than optimal offers. Okay, but if two people who've listened to this thread do the same thing, we're gonna be at a stalemate, boys. We got nowhere to go. It's two people looking at each other saying nothing, saying, "They'll do it. They'll say something. They'll break first." But in their heads, because they're not talking, obviously. That's the whole thing. Next story. I have 3 that I use all the time. When I screw up, I tell myself, well, I was always going to make that mistake because I didn't know any better. Thank goodness that I do now. What lesson can I take away from this? It sounds super cheesy, but it has become almost reflexive. Similarly, when I feel something very strong and uncomfortable, I try to get curious about it. One of my friends, who's a fitness nut, once described a metaphor for it. When doing Pilates, she often comes across a particular part of the range of motion in the exercise that is really difficult all of a sudden. That's a weak point being discovered in the moment, a place that can use some work. Emotions are like that too. When something hurts all of a sudden, there's something to look at, explore, and work on. This lessens the punch for me, and it takes me out of the flooded state where I just want to blame. Lastly, I remember that my emotions and my immediate thoughts are not under my control. That sounds like it could be self-indulgent or dangerous, but the second part is that my actions are. There is no need to feel guilty about a thought that crosses my mind. It's what I do with it that dictates what kind of person I am. Okay, I see the value in what OP's saying, absolutely, but this does just end up being, broken down learning. This is just the most effective way to learn. And I admittedly don't think you have to think about it so actively, although it probably does help. But God, OP, it does sound super cheesy to imagine like a sitcom or cartoon character just in their heads. It's like, well, I was always going to make that mistake because I didn't know any better. Thank goodness that I do now. What lesson can I take away from this? Actually, now that I think about it, less sitcom, more like kids show. It's a good message, but something about it just feels so strange to me. Maybe it's the wording or whatever. Anyway, what OP is saying, super true. It's important to recognize what's in your control, what's not, when you make a mistake, and how to fix it for the future. Breaking it down just feels so, kindergarten in a way. And I don't know why that is. Next story. If you're getting frustrated, force a smile. I think it's the motor neurons that control this, could be wrong. Anyway, your brain recognizes some actions as connected to mind states. Tense muscles, anxiety. Smiling, happy, and it will operate backwards. You can relax your muscles to gain calm, and you can smile your way to relief from the anger response. Source, teacher, who smiled at a lot of kids. Next story. When dealing with irrational people/customers who are dead set on creating a scene, but not physically threatening, treat them as if they're a mentally challenged person who is spiraling. Meaning, Don't take it personally. It's not about you, even if they try to personalize it. Try to figure out their actual issue and try to help solve it within reason, or set their expectations if their request or demand is way beyond reasonableness. Don't return fire by matching their tone and aggression. Keep calm and focused on the actual issues, not any outlandish behaviors. Above all else, remain friendly and as helpful as possible in relation to any legitimate issues. In my long customer service experience, this will work about 95% of the time. Your calm equanimity and helpfulness in the face of their tirade will remove the feedback loop they want to create to stoke the confrontation, pop their temporary insanity bubble, and to leave them quiet, or at least impotent, when they realize you're not going to play their game. For the 5% who are unmanageable, you just have to ignore their caterwauling, address any issues you can, and thank them and send them on their way. If they continue to engage, you'll need to bring in reinforcements, managers, coworkers, security if needed, and just do your best. Next story. I teach throwing tomahawks at summer camps. Anytime I see someone throwing left-handed, I always have a tomahawk to the side. If they miss/don't get it to stick, I always make a little show of, oh, you're using the right-handed tomahawks while being left-handed. Here, try this one. And they always throw better after that. Then the adults always come over asking what the difference is. Oh, this is just manifesting but real. You get in your head, it's like, oh, no, I can do this now. And then you do. Nice. Next story. If you can find yourself in a stressful situation and need to clear your mind, try to recite the alphabet backwards in your head. From experience, it helps shift your focus and calm you down. I've done it so many times that I can recite it backwards as quickly as I can forwards, which has the added benefit of impressing my kids immensely. Next story. Asking for a favor while someone is eating or just finished eating. Their ape brain is happy that food is in belly, and they're more agreeable. Works better if you're the one who provided the food. It has a 100% success rate so far for me. Don't do it often though, they'll catch on. Edit. Obviously you can't offer a bag of Skittles and be like, can you help me move all my crap from my old apartment to my new apartment? It's for little favors. Next story. I once read a suggestion about customer kung fu that I love. Basically, if someone calls you upset about something, if you downplay it, they aren't going to feel heard and will escalate their upsetness. But if you overplay it, oh no, your cable was out for 2 hours? How frustrating. I'm so sorry you went through that. They're more likely to feel heard and respond reasonably, possibly even coming down from their initial anger to, well, it wasn't really that big of a deal. People really just want to feel like you're appreciating the difficulty they've had. Next story. The read technique. A few months ago, I got my neighbors to admit to putting water in my gas tank by telling them I had security footage of them doing it and that I wouldn't call the police if they admitted to it. I don't have cameras. And I still reported them to the police. Next story. Assimilation. Mimicking naturally and subconsciously what the other person is doing. I find myself standing with a wider stance when talking to customers who are smaller than me. Also good eye contact when someone is explaining something to you. Leaning into the boardroom table when they're explaining something subconsciously shows interest. Also subtle head nods after points are made. Tone of voice when speaking to different people on the phone. Older people are Mr. or Mrs., surname here. Softer voice when talking to women, more fun and laid back when speaking to people my age. Edit. Also, when you're having a heated exchange or just a tense moment and there's a stop in conversation, just maintain silence. It puts the other person off and generally, the first person to talk is now the one on the back foot. I had about a 45-second standoff with the old accountant at work. We were both using the same tactic. It was the toughest 45 seconds ever, and it ended with the conversation just stopping. Luckily, it was over the phone. It happened! What I said happened! I swear I didn't read ahead. I didn't know people actually just did this, just stood there and didn't talk to each other. That's crazy to me, man. Also, I'm always a little worried when people talk about social engagements or interactions like they're contests. Like OP said, the first person to talk is the one on the back foot. I guess in situations where you'd want to do this, there is a sort of clear winning and losing almost. But it still feels weird to talk about conversations like that, doesn't it? Next story. While it's not necessarily an answer, it's still important. The bystander effect. If something like an emergency happens, there may be a crowd forming around it. The bigger this crowd, the less likely it is for someone to help the person in need. But if one person from the crowd starts helping, more will follow. So if you're ever in a crowd and you see someone needing help, be the first. No one else is going to do it. More will follow though. Next story. Delivering bad news is always easier with the sandwich method. For those who are unaware, this involves layering the conversation with a good or positive angle to start, followed by the crux of the issue, and then ending with another good or positive angle. John, I need to talk to you in my office. I've been reviewing your ideas about... They're fantastic. Your brother just called and said your father passed away suddenly. Don't forget this Friday's our work party and everyone is super excited that you'll be there. Okay. Am I the only one who thinks that was a bad example? Like, there's no... There's no way it's the right play to be like, oh yeah, I've been reviewing your ideas at work. They're great. Your brother died. Don't forget the party. Like, that's not going to have the intended effect, bro. That's not the sandwich effect. You're just burying the lead. I think I would be flashbanged if that happened to me, though, to be fair. It'd probably catch me off guard a bit. Maybe I wouldn't be as upset initially because of it, but I think there's a more sensitive way to talk about a family member's death. Just a thought. Next story. I often talk with people who are upset about something, so I use the following 4 strategies. Start off with the phrase, so what's going on? It's casual, chatty, and lets them set the agenda. Tell them, so you're upset about blank. They will either confirm this and feel heard, or tell you no and follow it up with what they're actually upset about. Repeat the last couple of words of their sentences. It keeps them talking, and they feel like you understand what they're saying, even if you don't. If you ever need to get information out of someone, tell them you already know the secret and just make something up. The urge to correct you will be too great, and they'll spill the beans. I think the urge to correct you will only be too great if you try this on Reddit. Then it'll work great. In person, though, I'm not so sure. Next story. Use primacy and recency to your advantage. Primacy is the first impression people have of you. Recency is the most recent impression people have of you. These are the most impactful as people construct their current opinion of you. For example, if you nail your job for the first month, primacy, and are really on top of it right before performance evaluations, recency, your boss won't pay much attention to the middle period even if you performed at a meh level. They'll focus on their first and most recent perceptions. Next story. Do this to people who drive BMWs, especially the 3 Series. Hey, that's a nice Camry you drive. Oh, not a Camry? You sure? Damn, they look just like a Camry. Crazy that BMW copied Toyota. My bad. Now, every time that person sees a Camry, so many of these are like helpful little tips for interacting with people. This guy was just like, you know how to screw with people? You know how to make people mad? Here you go. Next story. If you want someone to like you, ask them for a small, inconsequential favor. Most people will agree to a small thing, and unknowingly, by helping you with something, they're investing a bit of interest in you, and are thus more likely to look favorably upon you in the future. It can be something as easy as asking them directly to pass the salt. If you are in a highly engaged social situation and would like to leave soon, yawn. The fastest way to find the right answer to a question is to state an incorrect answer. You can poke the back of someone's neck with 2 pens at the same time, and it'll feel like a single pen poking them because there's only one nerve that carries sensations from this area. If you're in school and have to do a presentation but think that yours is underwhelming, go first. No comparison will always net you a better grade, even if no extra credit is offered for going first. And this is a social phenomenon, but have you ever been to a fair where they have one of those really big jars of gumballs or something and you need to guess? It turns out individuals fare unpredictably at this task, but you are unlikely to find a guess that's too close. But if you add up all of the guessed amounts and divide by the number of guesses, you'll find a number that is very, very close to the actual amount. The more participants, the closer the average is to correct. Group thinking is powerful. If you've ever seen one of those moons that looks really big as it's rising or setting on the horizon, it's an optical illusion our brains play on us somehow. If you were to stand on your head, the moon would appear normal. And in Best of 3 Rock, Paper, Scissors, the best strategy is to play the same thing all 3 times. Next story. Kids give you grief for things like bedtime or dinner. Give them a series of heads up first. Hey, bedtime's in 30 minutes. Start thinking about wrapping things up. Bedtime's in 15. Bedtime in 5. Start wrapping it up. Bedtime. Off they go. I don't know if this is just a kid thing. I feel like people just like warning when things are about to happen, right? Some predictability for short-term planning is just nice. At least for me. Next story. When talking one-on-one, look to see if they are mirroring your body language. Change position or pose and see if they subconsciously follow your lead. If they do, they are consciously or subconsciously trying to be socially pleasing to you. If they don't, they're not that interested in the conversation, or you. Maybe they actively look down on you, or are trying to game the social dynamic the same way you are. You can then begin steering a conversation in ways that can help you figure out which one it is. It's a fun game to play when you're trying to come up with a reason to stay interested in social chit-chat. Gamify it. Next story. When you're questioning anyone, whether it be a criminal or a kid, and you're unsure of their innocence, start with 3 questions unthreatening related to the person you're speaking to. How their day was, how their favorite sports team is doing, etc. Then follow up with a blunt question related to investigation that can't be answered with a yes or no. I noticed some cookies missing from the jar, and you and Scruffy are covered in crumbs. Why is that? This is very effective at getting a guilty person to completely shut down or trip over themselves trying to come up with a lie on the fly. Next story. I keep candy in my office and used to have it in my room when I worked in student affairs. Once people know you have it, they'll come to you. Then you can engage with them and build rapport without having to pursue them. They'll tell you a lot of things when they get used to the candy and chat ritual. I also keep a magic 8-ball, which is a wonderful conversation starter. Next story. My boyfriend used this on me for an embarrassingly long time before I caught on. Instead of asking me what I wanted to do today or where I wanted to go for supper, because my answer many times has been, "Oh, I'm up for anything," or "wherever place you would want to go," he would instead say, "Guess where we're going today?" I would name a place, and if he liked the idea, he would say, "I got it." If not, he'd say, "Guess again," until it was a place we both wanted to go to. Was a great little workaround for two chronic people pleasers. Damn it, my partner watches these videos. I can't use this. Maybe I should just leave this one out. I'll think on it. Next story. Hold out your hand. Pretend you're holding a salt shaker. Focus on the imaginary salt in the shaker. Take the salt shaker and shake the salt into your open mouth. Really focus on the salt. If done correctly, you can taste it. Works about 60% of the time for me. You may need to try shaking the salt into your mouth slower or faster to really get it to click and work. Closing your eyes helps. Edit. For some people, imagining 2 salt shakers, one in either hand, shaking salt into your mouth is more effective. Next story. For remembering new people's names, immediately imagine them meeting someone you know with the same name. So like, "Hi Kevin, nice to meet you." And immediately imagine this new Kevin meeting your coworker named Kevin at work. Of course, if you meet a name that you've never heard before, like Surif or Nave, or then you're SOL. Sorry. Okay, I wanted to wait a little bit before asking for the salt shaker one. Which one of you did it? I know some of you did. Who got? I refuse to believe none of you. You have to be honest with me. It's the law. It's like a police officer has to tell you they're an officer if you ask. You have to tell me if you did the salt shaker thing. Also, the police thing's not real if you think it is. Next story. One thing I like to screw with people about is height. I'm relatively tall at 6'3", and occasionally I'll be talking to guys who are noticeably shorter around the 6-foot mark, and they'll ask what my height is. I'll claim to be 6 foot. So funny to see their reactions claiming they're 6 foot. So you must be taller. I'll chime back, okay, maybe I'm closer to 6'1". They start to lose their crap. They are hellbent on ensuring their 6-foot status. Next story. When your server introduces themselves, pay attention and remember their name. When they take your order, thank them using their name. It both shows that they matter enough that you would remember their name so they'll check on you more frequently, and if they're not good servers, you may get better service than most because they know you remembered their name and could complain to management. The distress that's caused by pain is an emotion that you can control in the same way you can control anger or fear. You can't do anything about the physical sensation of pain, but you can control your emotional response to it. Just take a deep breath and count to 10. Acknowledge that you're feeling pain and that it's just another sensation. Don't try to ignore your pain or tense up. Relax if you can. Keep breathing and focus on being calm. When you're in a situation where you're in pain and can't do anything to relieve it immediately, doing this will help you feel less stressed. Next story. When I would ride in my younger sister's car, she would blast her music, and when I asked her to turn it down, she would turn it up to spite me. Now, instead of asking, I speak just below the volume of the music, and she'll turn it down to hear me. Also, she always hated my playlist and would whine when I played music, so I would put one song she liked in my playlist, start with that one, and shuffle. She would never complain about the exact same playlist she was bickering about before. Next story. Opposite action. If you've got no energy, you'd probably actually feel better going for a walk. If you feel like isolating yourself, you'd probably actually feel better reaching out. If you feel lazy, knock an easy task off the to-do list or clean one thing, etc. Obviously, using common sense, if you're tired from physical exertion, then you should rest. And if you've been dealing with people all day, you might need some alone time. But if you're in a depressed pile of blast state and you haven't actually done anything in a while, you'll feel a kind of gravity pulling you to continue that, even though it's not going to make you feel better. Dang it, OP had to put the common sense explanation after. I was going to use this as justification to play more League when I'm mad at League. You know, like a healthy individual. Next story. Shower someone with compliments if you need something from them and you know they don't like or respect you. There was a guy at work who was in middle management. He was always a condescending jerk to me. I figured out his vanity buttons and smashed them. I gave him power over me, but in reality, I had power over him. because he would do whatever I asked him to as long as I fed his ego and made him think it was in his best interest. Next story. If someone accuses you of something serious that you know is BS, take it seriously. Like, really seriously.
Hey Bob, there's money missing from the cash register. Did you take it?
No.
I think you did.
I see. Well, that's a pretty serious allegation, and if you genuinely believe I took it, I think you're obligated to immediately report it to management. Why don't we go speak with them together and make sure they pull the security tapes as well so we can get to the bottom of this ASAP? And then walk straight to the manager's office and say, "Hi Dave, Tony says there's cash missing and believes I took it. I absolutely didn't. But in any case, these are serious allegations which could have serious consequences, and this needs to be dealt with properly. I understand there's a process to go through here. I assume the company will be contacting the police to file a report, and I would appreciate if you could provide me the name of the officer contacted and the report number. Given the nature of the allegations being made, I would like to request a copy of today's security footage, and then hold that line rigidly. If they start to retreat from the allegations, then chase them down figuratively. Make sure they know that people talking crap will have to face consequences. Equally, don't make threats you don't intend to follow through on." Next story. Do not self-focus. What I mean by this specifically is focusing on your own body and what you think other people are seeing. We are really bad at judging what we think other people are seeing, and thus put a lot of attention on yourself. Are my hands moving enough? Is my voice shaking? Am I sweating? Am I blushing? Can they see me trembling? What am I going to say next? It only serves to make anxiety worse. I'm a therapist, and it's one of the biggest maintenance factors of social anxiety disorder, but it's also helpful in other contexts. Sports psychologists teach their athletic clients to not self-focus as well. The way they do this is practice shifting your attention internally to externally. Name things in the environment, for example, and during social interactions, really try to lose yourself in the conversation. Focus on the other person. What are they saying? What they seem to be interested in? How can you find out more? Next story. Did this a year ago. How do you spell fort?
F-O-R-T.
What do you eat your cereal with? 9 out of 10 times they'll answer fork. You gotta hit them with the, I eat my cereal with a spoon. You're welcome. Next story. If you want to quickly get through a dense crowd, yell, "I'm gonna puke," and pretend to puke, and people will desperately try to get out of the way. People don't want to get puked on. I've done it to get to the front at concerts. This is genius. This is the first one so far where I'm like, you have transcended normal human understanding. This is the perfect plan. It's true. I don't want to get puked on. If someone said they're gonna puke, I'd get out of the way. You've done it. You've cracked the code. Use your powers for good, OP. Next story. I learned this after multiple instances of freaking out thinking I'd forgotten to lock up our shop. If you need to remember you had done something, like locking up properly, repeat a bizarre phrase 3 times after completing the task. It can be anything, but vary the words each time. When you think back, you'll innately hear the words and know you've done whatever it is. Next story. I did 911 for a very large police department in Florida that, during training, I was warned would have me dealing with a lot of angry people. The best trick I had to calm people down was telling them, "I'm here to help you. Let's get this taken care of together." And it worked every time, to the point my trainers were dumbfounded. One trainer had been there over a decade and was literally mouth agape asking me, "How did you do that?" I was fired after 4 months for being, quote, "too nice." Next story. When doing things that take discipline over a long period, losing weight, eating healthy, working out, quitting smoking, etc., wake up in the morning and tell yourself, "I am not going to smoke any cigarettes," or "I'm going to the gym." In other words, take it literally one day at a time. The goal isn't to lose 20 pounds. The goal is to eat well today. You can do that. You can absolutely freaking do that. So get up and do it. We don't build walls. We wake up every day and lay the best brick we can. Then you start to stack days. You turn around in a year, and all of a sudden, you have a pretty damn good wall built. Next story. If you want the workplace snitch to look stupid, tell their best friend that you watched Netflix all day instead of working. Make sure you actually did a lot of work that day. The friend will tell the snitch, who will tell your boss. If you get confronted, act all shocked and be like, "No, I did XYZ all day." The snitch will look petty and stupid, and your reputation will be inoculated from the snitch for the time being. Next story. A few things that I haven't already seen posted. Asking, "Does that sound fair?" Learned this while working in sales. Not for an outrageous request, but typically you can talk to people about doing something that might slightly disfavor them or their position. People don't like to say something isn't fair and risk sounding like a child, so they just end up agreeing. Just talk through your point and end up with the above question, making a point to empathize with someone to disarm their hostility. This works especially well when you aren't the actual cause of their frustration or if you can shift blame. Learned this in customer service. Yeah, John, I'd be really frustrated if that happened to me too. I've had people straight up apologize for coming at me guns a-blazing and praise someone for an emotion you want them to have in order to elicit it. I know someone that's really great at this, and I think it takes some practice to deliver well. She would talk to someone she was familiar with, and if they were really frantic or hyped, she would say something like, "Thanks for being my rock. You're always so calm and patient. It helps me stay centered too." Watching that person bring their emotions back into check unintentionally just to be worthy of her praise was like some voodoo magic. I feel like the last one could backfire pretty hard. Like if the person knows they're acting a bit crazy and you say that, oh, they're gonna be mad. Like, oh, sorry, I don't have time for your sass. Oh, thanks for being my rock. Ah, go eat rocks. You know, that's just how I imagine the conversation going. Next story. I used to study biases, so I have a few I like to use. One works in an interview. When they ask you what makes you good for that job, you list off your traits, but then immediately ask them what traits they think someone would need to be successful at that job. You have just listed your good qualities and they're fresh in their mind, so they often start to list most of the things you just told them. It kind of tricks them into saying and thinking you're well suited for the job. It's also just a good question to ask in an interview. Another is when you have to ask for something from your boss, check in with them first. Be specific if you can, like, "Hey, I know it gets super busy this time of year. You have a lot on your plate. How you doing?" This doesn't even have to be done in a sneaky way to get what you want. Being the boss can be stressful, and you are potentially about to add to that stress. If you've just been supportive, they're way more likely to give you what you need. My colleagues always get me to ask for things. Next story. I did a Pavlov trick on my ex. We hold hands when driving, and his driving always made me anxious, so anytime he had to slam on the brake, I would squeeze his hand. After about 2 to 3 weeks of this, anytime I felt he should slow down, I would squeeze his hand and he would automatically step on the brake. It was super funny and worked way better than going, slow down, slow down." Next story. Always work at 60% effort, and when it's really needed, bump it up to 80. It always used to work on former bosses. I worked in IT, and I always maximized my bonuses, especially if you're better at your job than everyone around you. "I need XYZ done by Friday." Then just ramp up your effort and have it done by Thursday. Next story. Expressing yourself in terms of what you want. Like if someone asks you to do something, a lot of people try and give a gentle response or justify why you don't want to do it. But once you start justifying, you give people the opportunity to argue back. If you say, "Sorry, I can't buy this car. I've had a lot of expenses recently," the salesman can respond with, "That's okay, you can pay in installments." If you say, "Okay, I've decided not to buy," there is very little they can do. If they ask why, just say, "All things considered, I've decided not to buy." You really can just stick to that in most situations. What I really like about this trick is that in addition to being very powerful, it's also honest. It's not really a trick at all. Next story. Remember little details that people tell you about themselves or their lives. For example, their birthday, their spouse/kids' names, anything. If you ask them about one of those details the next time you see them, you will not only pleasantly surprise them, but they will quickly begin to like you and look at you favorably, which usually leads to them agreeing to nearly anything you ask of them. It's freaky just how often this has worked for me. Not even doing it out of seeking something in return, just trying to be a decent human being, and it's quite rewarding. Shout out to author Dale Carnegie for that one. Also, doing the triangle stare on someone, whether someone you just met or someone you're interested in. It absolutely works. The sheer disorientation that comes over them when you do it is hilarious. Next story. My top psychological hack is you can save yourself countless hours of strife by recognizing that arguing facts is only part of the persuasive equation. Empathy has far more persuasive pull than logic. If you want to persuade someone you disagree with while avoiding a heated dispute, begin by asking them to explain their position. Then tell them what you admire about their position, what you agree with, and how you see why they feel the way they feel about it. It takes the heat out of their frustration and makes them see you as an ally, so they're likely to be far more receptive to what you have to say. It also puts you in a state of mind to accede where you might also be wrong and make a genuine progress in your relationship. Or you can tell them why they're wrong by gish-galloping the facts. Sure, you might win the argument, but you'll likely damage your relationship, and once the resentment builds and reaches a tipping point years later, it won't matter what you argued about. Source: years of personal observations, testing different methods, and crucially, my own marriage to a therapist. Next story. So, this works on every ADHD person I know. I'm not saying it's an ADHD thing, it just works on all the people with it I know. If you ask them to do something while they're in the middle of something, do an under your breath mumble repeat of what you just said. Can you grab me some water? Can you grab me some water? It just works for some reason, and they get to me faster than if I said it once, and even then I'll have to say something or make a noise to get their attention again. Next story. If you're having a conversation with an increasingly hostile and belligerent person, you can break their caveman behavior by completely changing the subject to something utterly random. It momentarily confuses them, and then they're trying to figure out what the hell you're on about, instead of increasingly getting enraged about the other thing. This is a perfectly good technique for de-escalating a situation that's becoming dangerous, and it gives you extra options and time. Its effect is limited time-wise, so do this if you have to plan for what's next. Disengaging/leaving, whipping out the pepper spray, whatever. Next story. Struggling to make decisions in a group or to encourage clients and customers? Just do something. Doesn't need a lot of effort, doesn't need to be right. People are much more willing to tear down someone's work or ideas than step out and come up with one themselves. It'll move things along much more quickly. I tell my team to do this when clients, we work in a creative agency, are dillying over making a decision. Do an hour or two of the work as if they had made a decision, hand it to them, they'll tear it apart, and in the process, make decisions they've been pondering for weeks. It is perfectly true. Sometimes you just need to see something to realize, no, that is not at all what I wanted. Seeing what you don't want really would help you find what you do. Next story. In about the past 15 or so years, I've noticed that more people are likely to disagree with you just because they think it's the opposite of what you think. I think it's a desire to prove they have original ideas as often as you, instead of agreeing with something you thought of. This is a huge mistake, disagreeing just for the heck of it. It makes using reverse psychology entirely too easy. With everyone's desire to quickly disagree, all you have to do is act like you want the opposite of what you really want. When they disagree with you, they're really agreeing with you, or at least what you wanted to start with. An easy win on your part. Opie, where are you that everyone wants to disagree with you? I can't say I've had this experience myself. Are you just in a 24/7 debate club? An online game lobby? Or, I guess, Reddit? You are on Reddit. Alright, fair enough. Next story. If someone is telling you about a situation and there's a third party involved that isn't there, ask the person telling the story, and if I was talking to the other person, what would they say about this? You'll often get a more accurate idea of what happened, but keep in mind that they will often be quite sarcastic about it. They'd say I was being unreasonable, and that they would say they didn't have enough time, and so on. But through that sort of sarcastic filter, you will often get some good glimpses of truth. Next story. I once worked at a company where they would have strategy meetings on a monthly basis. In these meetings, every team leader would talk about their current work and what work was on their schedule. Each presenter had a specific amount of time to do their presentation and then take questions. After each presentation, one guy would wait until most had asked their questions and then ask one more. The question wasn't the thing, it was how he timed his question so his voice was always the last one heard before the next presenter started. Once I realized what he was doing, I would try to make sure I had the last question after his. This pissed him off. I enjoyed that. Next story. Make plenty of educated guesses. People tend to better remember when someone is right while ignoring the wrong ones. It's a pretty common element in how many psychics work. They might have a pretty bad rate at being correct, something like 30%, but people ignore, and the psychic will quickly move on from wrong answers and instead latch on to the few they actually get right. Done properly, people will think you're far more knowledgeable and insightful than you actually are, when in reality, you're just taking more chances. Next story. Asking someone, "Did you see anything?" is less effective than asking someone, "Did you see something?" For psychological reasons, the latter seems to get people to actually access their memory more when trying to recall. Also, say, "I don't mind," rather than "I don't care." Next story. If you want to do something but are too lazy to do it, count down from 5 out loud, preferably in front of people, then do it. This may sound stupid, but it works really well. Also, if you want to see if someone is lying, just ask them something, and even after they answer, stay quiet. People don't like awkward silence, so they'll have to say something else, which may be the truth or may cause a contradiction. Next story. I once worked at a new job, and me and the boss would have some chats occasionally. I started with a bunch of new people, and so I started telling my boss every once in a while, so-and-so's doing a great job. They got that software set up in the pharmacy with the new printers, and I did not think we were going to be able to get that going. He's really good with that kind of stuff, actually. Or, Jim knows a lot about the new products. I call him all the time to ask him questions. Basically just giving earned praise to coworkers. After a while, he just started asking me how some new guy was doing. I think it gave me credibility by relaying who was a good team member to him with specifics. One time I was bored at work, so I just emailed the boss and told him that the new supervisor has worked out really well. He's always available and happy to help and so on. A few hours later, that email went around to several higher-ups and then back to the supervisor. Super easy, and I don't think anyone else does it. I think that's why it's pretty effective. I helped a good coworker get promoted, and shortly after starting there, I got promoted as well. Next story. I'm late to the game, but this one works wonders. Have a difficult boss, maybe work with a jerk who's very pushy, feeling intimidated by someone, bully at school. While they're talking to you, stare directly into their eyes and do not look away. Looking away undermines your confidence and tells them you are their inferior. While staring into their soul, open your mouth and grin. You must bare your teeth at them. This is subtle but does leaps and makes them unconsciously on edge, as showing teeth is a sign of aggression. OP, is this a guide for dogs? Did I stumble onto the dog-only subreddit? What's going on? Does this actually work on humans? Because I feel like by now we're pretty conditioned to see a smile and be like, okay, that's not an aggressive act, teeth or not. But I don't know, maybe the monkey brain still thinks it is. Anyway, that's the last story for today. What did we learn in class? That's right, never talk, win conversations, sometimes compliment people, and don't show your teeth, I guess. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or a night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.